Can you hear me now? There we go. Okay. Oh, I better get that elevated chair back. It's just a little bit higher than the lights, you know. There, well, there, that's a little bit more merciful. Good evening, everybody. So we're continuing our journey through Sermon on the Mount here. And moving forward a little bit, different topic tonight. We are in, let me think here. I should know this by now. It's either chapter 5 or chapter 6. I'm having a brain fade. Still in 5. We're still in 5. Wow. Okay. 33rd verse is where we're picking up tonight. And I think that this could go any possible direction. We could get off on a number of rabbit trails tonight, and I'd be perfectly fine with that. Because if we don't rabbit trail tonight, we might be done in about 10 minutes. So I think we'll get a little bit more out of this. But it's kind of right here, and maybe we'll pick some stuff out. I do have something else to address that I think just is in this. But the topic is oaths, depending on how you want to pronounce the TH in there. Jesus says, again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. Here's where he throws the transition in. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. This is before they had hair salons, I guess. Now we can make them pink and whatever you like. You can just go right ahead and do it. I think here's the point. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. So let me just, before I tell you what I might think, for what that's worth, what do you all think? I mean, there's a transition here, and there's a reason, and I'm kind of trying to look beyond because the Lord said so, because when he says things, there's a reason. It tends to make sense. What do you think would be at the heart of what the Lord is looking for here in the way we talk, the way we put stuff out there? What do you think he's looking to achieve by giving us these instructions? Truth? Absolutely. Yeah. I think that you let your yes be yes and your no be no, and that's there is something concise about that, and we have so much in our world today that is based on lies, and we're seeing how destructive that can be. Whenever we move beyond a yes or a no, I think it's kind of neat. Anything more than this comes from evil. Now that really draws a stark line, of clarity. It seems to me like we're kind of missing clarity in the world today. Yeah, Mick. Yeah, and I think we're drawing valid points out of this, which is what I'm kind of looking for before I just go and throw my big one on the table to see if any of you have any other thoughts. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think in a parenting context, that is great. The children need clarity, consistency, and consequences, positive, negative. And some of the children I work with, it's like, Dad, can I get some bubble gum? No. Dad, can I get some bubble gum? No. Dad, can I get some bubble gum? I had a little guy try this on me once, and I said, buddy, you're going to learn something about me real quick. I answer a question once, and I'll repeat it a second time just to make sure you heard. After that, I'm done answering that question. And he looked at me, and then he got really animated, and he didn't ask me any more questions, but he started climbing on the other people in the room. So he just changed his way of making the situation difficult, but he didn't ask me the question anymore. You can't. Right, and I think you're right too. When you lie, it gets more complicated, and then you have to add layers to it, and lies need to be supported sometimes by other lies, and you have to think, oh, which version of this story did I tell that person, and which version of the story did I tell that person, and it can get. I think. Mm. Just because we think a little bit longer on it. We should have taken more time to make our decisions before yes or no, too. Sure. I have always gone pretty much always been a fan of, I'm going to need a little bit of time to think about that. Let me get back to you. I think that's a good one. And as in ministry, too, that is a very good question, and I'm going to have to look into that a little bit, rather than give you an answer right now that I'm not 100% sure on, because I want to get it right. So let me get back to you on that one. So, does anybody else here survive the Church of the Brethren? Okay, good. All right. So, and there were some good churches and good times. They're all gone now. But anyway, if you came from that sort of after the Reformation Anabaptist type movement, that would be Brethren, Mennonite, Quakers, things like that. Did you ever notice that these are folks that when they would go to court back in the day, if they would be sworn in a court, they would not put their hands on the Bible and swear an oath? Okay. And it basically goes back to this. And I think that this was something that I would say that tradition probably was onto something there. It says very clearly here, does it not? Do not take an oath at all, either by heaven or the throne of God. Don't do that. Okay, well, what I was taught was the reason for that was we're qualifying. I thought maybe originally it was like, well, maybe because it would be disrespectful to use the Bible for secular business or whatever. But the real root behind that being part of a church statement of faith or doctrine, although they didn't really have one of those, it was the idea that you were qualifying your statement. In other words, you're saying, right now, right here, under these circumstances, I am crossing my fingers and swearing that right now I will be honest. What about every other 5-minute segment of life you're living in? Does that mean that because you're swearing to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth and the complete truth right now, so help you God, or you will answer to him on that last great day? They still say that in Blair County, by the way, that you will answer to him on that last great day. And every time the bailiff says that in court, I just want to clap my hands and say, preach it. Keep reminding people of that. Thank you. But I digress. It might be like on any other day, maybe I would lie. Maybe I would. So again, we come around to the issue of integrity. And I think that for me is like the big nugget here is that as followers of Jesus Christ, we should be known for our integrity. We should be known as straight shooters, as people that others can count on to be honest all the time, consistent, that our answers will be straight, that we're not going to play word games. And, we see a lot of, stretching sometimes, trying to. You ever notice the news conferences? And I'm not anyone in particular, but sometimes if you get somebody that's running for office and they're just asked a question, or somebody that's in office, or you see a congressional hearing, something on television. I don't even know what it was the other night. I overheard something, and it said, and the guy asked the question, and the guy was blah, 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 rambling on, and the guy that asked him question, it's a yes or no answer. It's not that complicated. I think it was something about the border, maybe. Is the border out of control? Well, actually, blah, 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 blah. It was kind of like Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, just going on and on saying nothing. And it was like, yes or no. It either is or it isn't. But it's funny how people can sort of try and wiggle, And so I try to answer questions. And here's a tangent for what it's worth. I had a conversation in here recently with an individual who came in and said, I have some questions. And I said, good. We need to answer them for you. Might not be able to answer them all tonight, but we do need to answer them for you. And if you've heard this speech from me before, forgive me. But this is something I'm finding out there a lot, is people nowadays have questions. They're good questions. And if we don't know how to answer them, it's okay. But like I said earlier, you know what? I'm going to have to think about that, and I'm going to have to get back to you on that, because you deserve an answer for that. Why wouldn't you think that? Why wouldn't you want to know that? And I think when Christians were the majority in the United States, I think we kind of took that for granted a little bit. That, well, because we said so, and because it's in the Bible. Why? Why would God say that? Why would God do that? It's not blasphemy. It's curiosity. It's trying to figure it out. At least they're thinking about it enough to start asking questions. So I welcome them. Even if the person is still not getting it, at least we're engaging, in a conversation. To give you some background on this, I'm going to take you back to Numbers chapter 30 and give you some Old Testament context for what Jesus is talking about here. I ran into somebody a couple Sunday mornings ago, and a gentleman said to me, "Boy, you do sound different in the morning." I hadn't talked all day, and I hadn't exposed my body to allergies yet. My phone went off this morning. It was like, bling, bling, this little alert, and it was the weather app. And I'm like, what? I don't think we're getting a storm. It was a pollen alert that today was going to be a bad day for pollen. So I am in Numbers chapter 30, starting around about verse 1. Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, saying, "This is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So this is an occasion where Jesus is tweaking the system a little bit, if I can use those words. He's teaching something that goes beyond the Old Testament guidelines and actually changes them. Again, I think the key here is that followers of Christ are to be known for their honesty. And again, what you say is simply yes or no. We talked about it here. It's good advice for parenting, and anything more comes from evil, and it lacks clarity. And vagueness gives us the times where the waters get muddy. And we have been talking somewhat about footholds in all of this, how in recent weeks we've talked about anger, lust, divorce, the things that get people into a whole lot of trouble. Can you see where lying or being deceptive could give the enemy an opportunity, give the enemy a foothold in a person's life? If you have some thoughts about that, go ahead and say more about that if you got any examples. True or false? If you fill an extra large soda the whole way up with ice, and then you put a small amount of pop on the top, you will have a lot less calories coming into your body, because as the ice melts, it'll water down the soda, and you'll be taking in far less sugary, soft drink kind of thing. Well, I'm trying to avoid the aspartame, but I'm trying to muddying the waters for myself. I'm telling myself that if I put a little bit of soda and a lot of ice in there, I have some flavor and not nearly as many calories. I don't know if I'm deceiving myself and the truth is not in me or not. Pastor Tony. Oh, with the soda? Well, yeah, okay, so that I am actually consuming less soda. Because you think if you put an extra large thing, it's going to go on for, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 seconds till it's full. But if the thing's full of ice, yeah, less. I would think. Shane, am I all wet or am I deceiving myself? Okay. All right. Thank you. We got a medical opinion here. So I started doing this, like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago when I was stupid coughing towards the end of the day. I'm just sick and tired of drinking water all day. I wanted something with some flavor in. And so I rediscovered Dr. Pepper. Now, here's where I may be wrecking it. I take it over the coffee and I squirt some vanilla syrup in the ice first. then I put it under the thing and spray the Dr. Pepper. Well, one place had Dr. Pepper with cream soda in it. Maybe that was Rutter's. I don't know. I just did a Rutter's commercial for the church, but Sheetz is just plain Dr. Pepper. But lying is, yeah, Cindy. Oh, I was talking about cream soda, so you just go for it. Yeah. Just further cementing himself in his own fearful behavior that Jesus told him that he would do. He wraps it up with an oath. Yeah. I think after that he wept bitterly. Yeah. Oh, my. Yep. He did. Oh, absolutely. He was restored. Peter, do you love me? Yep. Peter, do you love me? And I think if you look at the Greek, the third time Jesus asked, he used a different word. But I don't remember that, so I shouldn't have brought it up. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. I'm welcoming interruptions, Mick, because I'm just about dry here. Oh, yeah, it's... Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. You remember the guys that in the orange jumpsuits that the ISIS guys whacked their heads off? Do you remember there was a guy that was not a Christian, but he gave his life to Christ and was beheaded with them because of their testimony, because they weren't afraid to die? And he said, if you're not afraid to die, I want to know your God. And he got right in there with them, and they cut his head off too. Interesting how... Yeah. Yeah. I came across some interesting stuff about dishonesty. Y'all remember who Alexander Solzhenitsyn was? He was a Russian political prisoner, and he was released from the Soviets. It was still the Soviet Union then, in the early 70s. He wrote a lot of things, but one of which in particular was a brief essay. I think it's called "Live Not by Lies." And he said in that piece, and I'm going to paraphrase it completely because I can't remember any of it word for word. I'm not even sure if I've got the title right. I think it's called "Live Not by Lies." And the essence of what he said in that piece really fits our culture today, because as a political prisoner in the Soviet Union, he had already gotten in a lot of trouble for what he said as an author and a speaker and activist of sorts. But he said there were times, basically there will be times when the truth is not welcome. And it may not be real easy for you to speak the truth. So what he was saying, in essence, was, if you can't say the truth, then don't say anything. So, and if you follow that through to a more modern thinker, are you familiar at all with Jordan Peterson, the psychology professor from Canada? If you haven't heard of him yet, I'm thinking that you probably will. His platform is getting bigger and bigger. And he wasn't really much into politics until he was drug into the whole thing about pronouns. And as a Canadian psychology professor, he refused to use incorrect pronouns. Well, the Canadian government now is trying to take away his psychology license to practice. But I don't think he has to worry about that anymore. He's written 2 best-selling books, and one of them is Rules for Order, 12 Principles for Life and to Avoid Chaos. And one of them is always tell the truth, at least don't lie. And there's a whole chapter about that. And how, when you lie, you're just going to walk into it. You're going to make your mess. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what Solzhenitsyn said about live not by lies. And if you can't tell the truth, then don't say anything, because you're not supporting the lie. You know, um, some of the meetings I have at work, I get noticeably quiet every once in a while. And if they want to send us to a gender sensitivity training or something like that, I got as far one time as saying, you don't want to send me there. I think I would fail that class. There was just this kind of awkward chuckle in the room, and then I got away with it, you know. But there are times when I'm out, like in more of a government agency type of situation, where I just get real quiet. People start talking about that kind of stuff, and just don't say anything. You know, I think people... The principle behind that is Solzhenitsyn saying, not only are you not lying, but you're not giving the lie more gasoline, because you're one less person that is promoting the lie, you know? And I look at this, the whole thing in Nashville. You know, that individual, I think it was a biological female that wanted to be a male. Okay. The system of evil got to that person somehow or other, and that person became most likely convinced in their mind that they were a woman trapped, or what, a man trapped in a woman's body. Do I have this right? It's confusing. So that's a lie, right? But this person wholeheartedly believed it. And we've got demons all over creation that are convincing people of this lie. And it goes right back to what we're talking about a week or two ago with Ishtar, which was from Babylonian culture but comes up in Hebrew culture as the Ashtoreth to the Baals. And, you know, the high priests of, or the priests rather, of Ishtar were, get this, transgender. Nothing new. You know, what we're seeing today is just, like I said about Mark Driscoll's sermon series, New Day, Old Demons. You know, it's the same thing. And we've got these young people that have been bathed in this garbage since birth, and it's coming to fruition, and now we have them even fighting, attacking a Christian school. Nick? Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And Satan is the father of all, and his goal is to steal and destroy. Yeah, Nikki. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Here it is. Okay. I think there may come a day when I can't work in this field anymore. Right now, the agency that I'm with is wonderful, so I'm good to go. My thing is, after I build a relationship with someone, and I earn their trust and they earn mine, and then I ask a question. Do you want to know what I think about this? You know, and we had a new young lady come on almost a year ago now, and we were tripping over each other verbally going into a situation. And we worked together about a month, and I just said to her, I said, you can say anything you want in front of me. I don't get offended. And you can see this sigh of relief come from her, and we just got more candid with each other, and we'll be walking out of a situation now. And I said, that was just a load of crap, you know. But, you know, I'm kind of living now in individual, unless I'm here with a microphone in my hand. I'm doing life kind of one-on-one. I don't, other than here, address a mass audience anymore. So and I'm not in a leadership position either, thank God. So I don't have to go out and rally the troops on anything. I'm just a foot soldier, you know. But did I answer that? For me, I do it in one-on-one situations because I'm not responsible for publishing my agency's position on anything. I'm just so, and if I'm around people long enough, I've had clients that have said to me, my daughter is on social media and now she's all about this. She's not sure if she's gay or straight. And the parent was fit to be tied. So I said, okay, you want to have a candid conversation about this? Yeah, I do. Okay, let's have it. Dave, I think you're going to say something. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah, I got you. My son had a boss once that just would not give him any trans identifying clients because he had. Oh yeah, what did he call? He called my son Archie Bunker. He said, "Archie, I'm not giving you this when he's transgender." So, Tim. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Doctor, can you make me polyamorous, please? I want. Yeah, yeah. Rerun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, yeah.
And that's the reason. Nobody will stand up and say, enough's enough.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing we got to do is keep speaking the truth in love, because it's spoken so much with anger anymore.
Right. You're not
Yeah.
going to win anything by an
Oh, no.
argument. You just say,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to say what you believe.
Yeah.
And if you're right in Scripture, you're talking right, then it's up to the individual to make the decision.
Figure it out. Okay, Dave, and then we'll come back to Walter.
I find it interesting, Matthew 33, that it comes on the heels of Christ talking about divorce. And divorce doesn't happen unless there's deceptions or lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would occur. So Christ is I just find it very interesting that, let your yes be yes and your no's be no's. Well, when do we say I do? It's in a marriage.
Yeah.
Either you're saying I do or you're not.
Right.
Are you taking an oath, a marriage oath, or are you teetering on that marriage oath? So I just find it
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It's a covenant between two people and God, and we call them vows, but very, very similar. And that you're right. That is very interesting. That is right. That is the next thing. Walter.
Peter 3:10. 1 Peter 3:10 says, whoever desires the long life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it.
A lot of trouble with your mouth, that's for sure. So I think we're kind of coming full circle to the simplicity, the simplicity principle here. Keep it simple, keep it honest, keep it real. The world will be a better place in our corner. Keep living it. Dave, yes.
Christ, knowing the history of Israel, Christ would have known the story of Jephthah, who made the vow, whatever comes running out of my house, I'm going to sacrifice to the Lord. And, so Christ knows, it's time. You have to be careful. Just say yes, or don't say, I swear to God, and, that's a common one. But I also see it as, we have these organizations that are about us in the world today, whether it be Masons or whatnot, different organizations. You're not supposed to be taking oaths.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole secret society thing.
Right.
Yep. You're,
Yes and no.
yes, and you're right. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's a whole nother. If you have a secret society, why does it have to be a secret? Why do you have to hide what you're doing in there? Sounds a little devious, Yeah. Did you ever notice Jehovah's Witness places don't have any windows? Why? They don't want any witnesses. This is a prime example of what do they believe anyway? I don't know. I knew that 17 years ago, and I retained the knowledge of it for 3 months, and then I forgot, because I didn't access that again. It's like you learn something like that and put in a file and stick it in the back drawer, and then it just disintegrates over time. It's just something different. But
you had mentioned you brought up Mark Driscoll last week.
yeah.
That's some amazing sermons they have on there.
Oh, yeah.
It's something. I just listened to the prophecy on the end times sermon, and he had a guest, Jimmy Evans.
Jimmy Evans. Oh, that was an amazing message, too.
I had to go through it again because there was just so much.
Oh, yeah.
And how connected all the dots together.
Yep.
And we're in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's possible. And if you dig deep down the Mark Driscoll rabbit hole, I'm going to warn you, you're going to find a lot of awesome preaching, and you're going to have a couple where you're like, oh, did he actually say that? His nickname 15 years ago was the cussing preacher. So he said things in the pulpit that I have never heard anybody else say. I will say that I amened almost all of them, but he's a little controversial. So just putting it out there, he had a huge, very successful church in Seattle, Washington. Major successful church. It's called Mars Hill. They went from 0 to like 12 campuses in like a decade. I don't know, 15, 20,000 members, something like that. And it blew up. I'm sure there was a lot of spiritual warfare, but his downfall was his temper. It wasn't a sex scandal. It wasn't a financial scandal. It wasn't anything like that. You can tell how passionate he is. Okay, the downside to that is he's got a temper. And it came out. And he butted heads with his staff, and it got a little ugly. And some of his messages are, he does some messages about marriage, but I mean, he gets a little more graphic than I would on a Sunday morning message. Maybe on a couple's weekend, there'd be some things that you could talk about, but I wouldn't be that graphic in the pulpit. But all in all, you can learn a lot from him. He's a very good teacher. He's frighteningly intelligent. But just if I'm putting it out there, I'm going to put the clarification on it. If you get an earful from him, you've been warned, okay? Okay. I can imagine. I've heard some. Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's great. There is a podcast out there called Something About Mars Hill, and it tells the story of the downfall of the whole thing. But, oh my goodness, I've probably been listening to him for at least 16, 17 years, something like that. Definitely a person I learned a lot from. So that was a shock to me in 2014 when that all fell apart. It's like, oh no. But it also makes me rethink the whole idea about the rock star pastor. Is that the way it's supposed to be? Are the lives of 40,000 people supposed to revolve around one person? You know, I think maybe the culture in the church is starting to figure out that may not be a good idea. And I'm seeing some of these really big churches now, they're rotating, so it's not always the same person every Sunday addressing multi-campuses in the world online. Because if one person is that prominent, and then I think it's just so much pressure to put on one person. Yeah, and you can, okay, I got a text, I've been texting with a young lady that her husband and I have been talking to me because their pastor at the church they're attending now, she went to ours for a good number of years and then moved out of the area, but she stayed in touch with my wife and I. And anyway, the church that she and her husband go to, they just lost their pastor because of a moral failure. So they've been texting me on and off this week like, Pastor Dave, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? What should we do now? How can we help our next pastor? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? So the thing that I retrospectively looking back and you look about the whole integrity and the thing, it's real easy to just drift if you're not proactively keeping yourself in a position where you're always keeping your integrity in check. Let me see if I can make this make a little bit more sense with something that came up in a session today. Had a teenage girl, mom, brother, my partner, and myself in this case, and they were talking about the girl's tendency to be depressed and that she sleeps all day. And we were talking about, okay, so you're depressed, but you're not moving. Right? So is it easy to just let yourself lay in that bed all day Is it hard to get moving? Yeah. But when you get moving, after you have moved, after you've got out, got sunlight, got fresh air, come back in, do you feel better? Oh, yeah. See, it's the same thing with integrity. If you don't exercise it, it's easy to not have it in place. And I think this is what can happen. Ministry can be an isolating thing. You can start to live with this illusion that you're bulletproof, and then you can get sloppy, and then the next thing you know, you're making compromises that you wouldn't make if you had your integrity game on. And it's just something that you have to put on your armor, shoes of peace, breastplate of righteousness, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, sword of the Spirit. You got to put it on when you're going to go out so that you've got that all in place to resist the devil and that you will live with integrity. Sloppy. That's what happens sometimes. People just get sloppy, and the next thing you know, they've been compromised. So, especially if you've been reading your own public relations pieces too much. Believe all the hype that they write about you, It can bring a person down. Okay, any other comments for the good of the order? Somewhere I've got... I think I have. I do. So I'm being creative here. Origami. Unintentional origami. Oh, okay, thanks, Pastor. So I got a text message from my old administrative assistant from Curryville, Becky Rogers. If you don't know who Becky is, she sits with my family and the Curryville crew here on Sunday morning. Her husband, Bill. Becky has pneumonia. And this is not the first time she's had pneumonia. So she asked us to pray for her tonight. So from what I understand about pneumonia, if you've had it once, the next time you